It's the year 2000 and Nintendo 64's life is coming to a rather eventful end as the PlayStation 2 appeared on the field, rocking the Dreamcast into an early grave. Nintendo fans sat in the sidelines, watching and waiting for the almighty Dolphin to hit the scene, praying for it to be a bigger success with the third parties than Nintendo 64 and its expensive cartridges were. What would normally be a relatively quiet time for a dying console actually ended up being quite solid, with a monumental final showing for the console. Of course, in a rather exciting time, what with a brand new competing console and a new home console upcoming, not every game is going to be able to be given the time of day. In a year with 3 of the Nintendo 64's strongest titles making an appearance, it was bound to happen. But fate picked a rather unfortunate soul to ignore, the game we are here to talk about today, Paper Mario. Originally in development under the name Super Mario RPG 2, a name that would make any grown gamer cry, Paper Mario is a Mario RPG with a different, more grounded take on the concept. Keeping certain ideas from Super Mario RPG in mind, along with a wild new art direction, Paper Mario sets out to create a more cohesive and fitting Mario world with the same focus on interactive gameplay. Of course, it didn't have Squaresoft behind the wheel, so could it even begin to reach the same lofty and weird heights as the original Super Mario RPG could? Could the company behind the Famicom Wars and Fire Emblem franchises match the greatness of the JRPG masters at the time? Let's unfold the answer, shall we? Unlike the majority of Mario games, Paper Mario graces us with a story. Totally unsurprising once you remember that this is an RPG and not your average Mario game, but still. The game opens with Mario, as well as that forgettable green guy no one seems to remember anything about, as they get ready to attend a party at Princess Peach's castle. Once there, things go swimmingly right up until the part where Bowser crashes in and steals not only the princess, but the entire castle you were in. Bowser really can go all out when he tries. As you'd expect, Mario rushes to the rescue, but is easily defeated by Bowser and his big new rod, the Star Rod. Using the power of the Star Rod, Bowser kidnaps the 7 star spirits, handing them out to his minions who are tormenting people all over the Mushroom Kingdom. Mario, who isn't about to stand around and let his girl get taken by some rod thief, sets out to save the day, 1 star spirit at a time. While the story isn't anything to write home about, the dialogue and charm is. This continues on Super Mario RPG's legacy by crafting a world that is just fun to interact with NPCs that are fun to talk to just to see what they'll say. It's not every day you want to talk to everyone in an RPG, but intelligent systems manage to make it happen. You'll run into all sorts of characters, even with some recurring gags, and even build yourself an atypical party. All it took was a combination of charm, humor, and heart, and you have a memorable experience, in spite of having a less than standout story. As you may well know by now, thanks to some subtle hints I made throughout the review up until this point, Paper Mario is an RPG. I can only hope my hints weren't too subtle so that I didn't surprise you too much with that revelation. You control Mario, another shocker, I know, as you venture across the world talking to people, fighting enemies, and jumping about the place. If you played Super Mario RPG, it's very similar to that. The world is sectioned off in interconnection zones, allowing each room to be detailed as needs be, while also keeping the world flowing properly, giving off a nice sense of progression as you travel. If you played other RPGs, either ones that have an overworld map or a map screen, like Super Mario RPG, that connects to smaller maps, this replaces the larger map with corridors. Some might find that this vastly shrinks the scope of the game, and those people will be right, but it does add a nice sense of cohesiveness to the world, allowing you to get attached to traveling a bit more. As for it getting tedious to go back and forth, it can be, but that's why they added the ability to fast travel after a certain point. Not like you'll have a reason to go back, outside side quests anyway, but it does make an appearance. Of course, you'll not just be running around the place. No, that is reserved for the weak and non-Italian plumbers amongst the rogue gallery of JRPG protagonists. You're playing as Mario, dammit, you gotta be able to jump. And jump you can. Weakly. Look, this is a JRPG first and a platformer a distant second, so it's just nice to be able to do that at all. That's not saying it's not something that matters. There are some bouts of platforming, they're just smaller in scale and much simpler than Mario would be used to. Mario can also use his trusty hammer, Donkey Kong PTSD flashbacks incoming, to interact with the environment as well, by hitting switches and blocks. While it may not be entirely deep, the interactivity and more grounded place in the world goes a long way to make the exploration a lot more fun. All this and we haven't even gotten to the combat yet, something that any good JRPG would want to excel in. Well, does Paper Mario excel in battles? Absolutely. While it may not be as revolutionary as Super Mario RPG's combat was, especially seeing as this is modeled after it, it is an excellent step forward for the blueprint Mario's first RPG outing penned. Battles are turn-based, classic, but beyond that it's all Mario, baby. While battles start out pretty one-dimensional, having you just pick the jump option and having Mario jump on the enemy, you quickly get into the real meat of the system before even entering Chapter 1. Like the Squaresoft classic before it, Paper Mario has timed hits to make battles a lot more engrossing. Instead of just selecting an attack and the attack being done, the game asks you to interact with it, pressing buttons at the right timing in order to do more damage. The timings and actions are a lot more complex than they are in Super Mario RPG, but to make up for it, the guide's on screen for every prompt every time. This keeps battles from being totally brain dead, but it can make repeated battles a tad tiring. Both Mario's jump and hammer have different timings they want you to complete, and you can add more unique attacks to your arsenal with badges. Badges are the sole equipment here and can do things from adding new moves to more health or flower points, or even just do something as simple as changing the sound effects from Mario's attacks. These badges offer plenty of customization, but most do boil down to something as simple as new attacks and higher stats. You'll find the moves you like and stick with them, making this a neat and unique system, but not a perfect one. As you progress through the game, you'll come across a large variety of different enemies, and each one not only has their own attacks, each of which have their own timings for defending, but some can only be defeated certain ways or are invulnerable to certain attacks. This keeps you on your toes and can make combat more challenging, once again keeping things from being totally brain dead. Badges can help you in these situations, offering you protection against certain things or allowing you to bypass defenses, offering some more life to the system, but I did find myself fairly well off just brute forcing my way through everything. All in all, the combat is extremely fun, even if it gets a bit tiring if you find yourself in it a little too often, and the exploration is enjoyable. The badge system was a genius way to add customization to a primarily Mario-focused combat system and keeps the game fresh as you go and collect, even if brute force can solve everything. As an RPG, Mario won't be totally alone in his adventure. Nope, he'll have a stash of items at his disposal and a bevy of friends to confide in. As you venture across the Mushroom Kingdom, you'll collect both useful items and find characters that will join your party. Items are something that should be obvious. I mean, there aren't many JRPGs out there that don't have them. Items have various effects, such as healing Mario's HP or FP and damaging enemies, with some being usable outside of battle. Items can quickly turn the tide of battle to your favor and require some planning to get use out of, seeing as you can only hold a very limited stock. Standard stuff, but the limited storage does require some thought instead of just stocking up as much as you can afford. The main difference between this game and other JRPGs, especially at the time, is that Mario's party members don't follow the same rules as he does. They don't have any HP, any attacks they receive knock them out for a certain number of turns, and they don't gain any experience. Their growth is handled by finding special item blocks throughout the world that let you upgrade them one level to a maximum of 2 per partner. Upgrading a partner increases their attack and gives them access to a new move. Other than that, each partner acts as their own unique character with their own strengths and weaknesses to help you put the hurt on Bowser's minions. Unlike in Mario RPG, these partners are all Mushroom Kingdom residents, making them a more natural fit. It's not exactly a secret, seeing as you're seeing it, but Paper Mario is a fairly unique looking game for the time. Granted, 2D sprites on a 3D environment wasn't anything new, but nothing looked quite like this one. The game isn't called Paper Mario for nothing after all, and it's kinda crazy how a simple design element can make a game look so much more unique. They aren't sprites, they're paper. In the end, this sadly just boils down to an aesthetic choice instead of any meaningful or impactful one, but doesn't change the fact that the game looks incredibly good, even holding up quite well today. Sure, there's a lot of asset reuse, what with the recolored enemies and such, but what JRPG doesn't have that? I can't think of any. That's how many. One other thing that aged well is the music. While not up to Super Mario RPG standards, I mean, who can top the legendary Yoko Shimomura, it still remains a lovable, upbeat, and fun soundtrack. You can probably tell just from watching the footage of it, but the game oozes charm and feels very welcoming to play. It's not every day that exploring the world can be this enjoyable, but the presentation works its ass off to make it so here. This is no doubt one of the best aged Nintendo 64 games out there, though I know that isn't saying a whole heck of a lot when it comes to this sharp-edged mess of a console, but it truly does stand strong. At the end of our paper trail, Paper Mario holds up as one of the stronger JRPGs of its particular generation, even forgetting that it was one of the like 2 or 3 on the Nintendo 64. It just does nearly everything right, offering a well-paced combat system, enjoyable characters, and writing with a fun world to explore. It just does what it does so well. Yeah, it often gets overshadowed by the original Super Mario RPG, but this takes what that started and makes it more Mario while keeping what worked before. When it comes to Nintendo 64 games, this one goes on the all-time greats shelf, and it gets to sit closer to the front, as it's one that aged pretty perfectly. I think it's obvious this one holds up, and it gets greeted with a pretty flattering 9 out of 10 for its efforts. It may be a paper adventure, but that doesn't mean it isn't rock solid even 20-so years on. That being said, thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at Mario's first sort of in-house RPG adventure. This is one that has very little to talk bad about, so this makes it one of my few glowing reviews this early on. But that's just my opinion. What's your take on this game? Or my review in general? Do you agree with my points? Do you think I was a little too thick with the praise? Let me know in the comments below. Engaging with the video is a good way to show support, as is throwing a video a like and clicking that subscribe button. If you want to see more, there will be more JRPG reviews in the future. In the meantime, why not check out the rest of my channel? We have multiplayer matches from a variety of different games and various Let's Plays in the go, with hopefully some more special shows in the future. Until next time.